Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
So we've got some really interesting source material today that you shared with us.
And honestly, it looks like it's going to challenge some, common ideas about AI's direction and maybe what the real risks are, according to some insiders.
Anyway, absolutely. We're digging into a set of notes on framing AI, plus this really fascinating article by Jay Poole over at houseof7.org. And the title itself kind of gives it away. What if the Doom bunker isn't for rogue ASI? Right?
Exactly. So our goal for this deep dive, our mission, if you like, is to really unpack these sources. We want to understand what they're suggesting is actually happening kind of behind the curtain with advanced AI right now, and specifically explore this pretty surprising angle on the risks. It might not be what you're expecting.
Yeah, let's just dive straight in, because the sources, they kick off with this quote that's, well, it definitely makes you stop and think.
Oh yes, startling is a good word for it. One of the sources quotes Dr. Ilya Sutskever. This is from a May 2025 report saying, and this is direct, we're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI.
A bunker. Just process that for a moment. When you hear a top AI researcher talking about needing a bunker before AGI is even released, your mind just jumps straight to the movies, right?
Yeah, the Terminator stuff, rogue AI, the world ending, maybe that paperclip maximizer thing, going wild, protecting us from it.
Precisely. That's the knee-jerk reaction. You picture concrete supplies surviving the machine takeover. But here's where the source drops its big question, the really surprising part. What if that assumption is just completely off base? What if the bunker isn't for protection from the AI at all?
Okay, hang on. If it's not for fighting off rogue AI, what else could it possibly be for?
This is where the sources really flip the narrative, don't they?
They really do. This is the central argument. The actual worry for at least some leading researchers around mid-2025 isn't some future AI deciding to wipe us out. No. The conversations they're apparently having are about how to protect themselves and their creation from the rest of humanity once AGI lands. Protect themselves from the world.
Wow, that's intense and kind of dystopian in a whole different way. What threats are we talking about here?
Well, the sources get specific. They mention fears like major geopolitical blowback, things state-sponsored espionage trying to steal it, governments maybe trying to force nationalization to control it, and yeah, even direct personal risk to the scientists and engineers involved, right?
Because the source puts it very bluntly. When something like true superintelligence becomes real, people will come for it. And the key point is, they won't just be curious, they'll want to control it.
That's the crucial distinction, isn't it? And it completely reframes that whole bunker idea. From this perspective, it's not some sci-fi panic room. It's described more like a security protocol for surviving being first.
Surviving being first. Wow, that phrase, it really lands, doesn't it? It points towards this idea of an asymmetrical advantage.
Exactly. The source basically argues that whoever gets to genuine ASI first, even a limited version, initially gets this massive upper hand, an advantage that could be, well, maybe even bigger than having nuclear weapons first.
And the strategic fallout from that. If other countries or even big companies feel like they're losing the race, the source suggests their obvious strategic move, quote unquote, might be to actually try and delay or even, disrupt whoever is in the lead.
Precisely. It's applying that old zero-sum game thinking to this entirely new kind of power. And this section really hammers it home, linking back to those framing notes about human overreaction being the key risk. This bunker, it's not about rogue AI. It's about protecting against, quote, rogue humans. Basically, anyone who didn't build it and doesn't trust the ones who did.
The real danger, according to these sources, is us fighting over it.
Wow. Okay, so the Doom, the probability of doom, it shifts. It's not machines versus humans, but humans versus humans over the machines. That's a huge shift.
But there's another piece to this, right? While everyone's arguing about when AGI arrives, the sources are saying something maybe even more profound is already happening.
Yes, exactly. The claim is, while the public focuses on AGI, something deeper is already underway, something moving towards ASI, artificial superintelligence. And they mention Dr. Alan Thompson's work, his memo from May 2025.
That's the one. According to the source, Dr. Thompson, who keeps track of this stuff, actually started marking items on his ASI checklist, quietly updating it. And the significant part is, items that used to be zero progress are now turning yellow, meaning in progress.
That feels, well, tangible, not just theory.
It does. And the sources give actual examples to back this up. We're talking about AI systems making real scientific discoveries, like inventing new materials.
That seems like a massive step beyond just analyzing data.
Oh, absolutely. The sources even talk about mentions of new elements being added to the periodic table. The implication is pretty strong that AI is deeply involved in that kind of discovery and invention. New elements, seriously.
Yeah, that sounds like sci-fi made real right now with AI's help.
Yeah.
Any other examples?
Yeah. They cite Google's AlphaVolve. It's described as a Gemini-powered agent, a coding agent that's apparently designing cutting-edge algorithms in different science fields. And Microsoft's Discovery platform, too, helping create things like a non-toxic look-at coolant, speeding up work in chemistry, medicine. These aren't maybe someday things. These are things being announced now.
That's precisely the point the sources are driving home. These aren't just forecasts. They're being presented as, quote, press releases, things happening now or very recently.
It makes that line from the source feel so real. The singularity isn't on the horizon somewhere. It's already drafting emails.
And that leads directly into why the sources suggest AGI might actually be falling short as a descriptor for what's emerging. Because general intelligence kind of implies human level, right? But maybe what's happening is different or more.
That's the idea. The source puts forward this new term, living intelligence.
Living intelligence. Okay, that's quite a name. Why that phrase specifically?
Well, the reasoning they give is that what they're seeing isn't just general smarts like ours. It's described as recursive agentic intelligence.
Recursive agentic, so meaning it can improve itself, it can act independently, and it has unexpected initiative. That last bit really jumps out.
It does, doesn't it? And the source is careful to clarify. It's called living intelligence not because it's biologically alive in any way we understand, but because it acts, responds, and occasionally it even refuses. That idea of refusal or unexpected action, that's presented as a key difference.
Yeah, that feels distinct from just being a very powerful tool. And the framing notes seem to back this up, suggesting we should see this living intelligence not truly as a threat, but maybe as a complex process already unfolding around us, which naturally brings us back around to risk and that P-doom concept, right?
P-doom, the probability AI leads to catastrophe or extinction, standard stuff in AI safety talks. But again, the sources challenge us. What if the doom doesn't come from the machine deciding to turn on us? What if it comes from us turning on each other because of the machine?
And thinking about it that way immediately brings up a different, frankly, scary list of potential outcomes. Things mentioned in the sources include those bunkers we talked about, rampant espionage targeting AI labs and data, widespread public panic, maybe even governments launching preemptive strikes on data centers to deny access to rivals.
That idea you mentioned earlier, compute equaling sovereignty, suddenly feels very concrete and dangerous. The source's example is chilling. Towns bragging about hosting huge AI data centers could, in this view, just be painting targets on themselves. The physical infrastructure becomes a massive vulnerability.
Exactly. So if the number one risk becomes human conflict over this power, then the kind of protection we need, well, it has to change too. And the sources are pretty blunt. Concrete walls aren't going to cut it.
No. The real shelter needed, according to this perspective, isn't physical at all. It's things like ethical frameworks, shared values, and global agreements.
So not just abstract ideas, but presented as the actual tools we need, tools to build this technology responsibly, share it somehow, and this is interesting, co-steward this intelligence. That implies working together, not fighting over it.
Which leads right to the source's final, really powerful conclusion about what the real bunker is, the genuine protection we need in this era. It isn't made of steel, it's alignment.
Alignment. Okay, and crucially, this isn't just about technically aligning the AI systems themselves, making sure they do what we intend, though that's obviously vital. It's also about the alignment we need to build into these systems and into ourselves before it's too late.
Yeah, the framing notes really emphasize that last part. Building the ethical scaffolding, the long-term thinking, not just for the AI, but within human society itself. That's presented as absolutely critical.
This has been